Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome. Yes, that's me. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, friends and family, and the people watching to us through the live stream. I can vividly remember the first moment that this dream team became part of my life. As a first-year student of mechanical engineering, I was intrigued by the new environment, the new vibrant surroundings of the university. I thoroughly enjoyed new subjects, projects and people around me, but I also really missed the times that I could endlessly tinker with my moped during secondary school. Something for which I had a lot more attention than my teachers at that time. One day I was walking through the faculty, wondering how I could put this hobby back into practice. Then, suddenly, I noticed a poster of Nova Bike hanging on the wall. At that very instant, I realized that I wanted to be part of this phenomenon. Then, after a year, I decided to approach the team to inform about doing my minor project within the Dream Hall. I was invited to come over to an interest drink, and after speaking to a few other people, I came into the Nova Bike workshop. It's fine? At this moment, the racing of my heart at the moment that I first saw this magnificent motorcycle, and the instant click I had with all the team members due to our shared passion was enough for me. I was sold. So, from this moment on, I became more and more involved. One thing led to the other, and here I am now, team manager of Nova Electric Racing. I am Nico van Leeuwen, and would like to welcome you to our design presentation tonight. So, Nova Electric Racing, formerly known as Nova Bike, has a great history of implementing innovative solutions into the motorcycle racing world. Therefore, before I continue with the current project, I would like to walk with you through our history. The first Nova Bike was born in 2009, when a group of motivated students from the TU Delft decided that sustainability and motorcycle racing should be a happy marriage. The energy source they chose to prove this with was bioethanol. Bioethanol, better known as E85, is a fuel of which 85% is alcohol produced by either plant waste or algae. To prove that this green and renewable fuel was competitive to fossil fuels, they decided to enter the Supermoto Cup. This is a competition in which single-cylinder petrol-driven motorcycles, driven by professional riders, compete against each other. This challenge would prove that renewable energy is has undeniable potential for performance. So, this is where the Nova Bike legacy started. In the first year, they decided to use an existing Aprilia frame so they could focus more on the inner workings of the engine. Within only a year, they managed to build a fully functional racing motorcycle which could even achieve top speeds up to 230 kilometers per hour, which personally I find pretty amazing. After this, in the second year, they decided to design and produce the chassis completely in-house to match the needs of the engine even better. The frame was built around an open air intake, which facilitated an almost laminar flow into the throttle body. And this would improve decrease the aerodynamic drag of the motorcycle, something that had never been done before in the history of motorcycles. In the year after, there were several improvements made to the existing motorcycle of year 2. Next to the new exhaust system and also an optimized aerodynamic bodywork, they had several improvements which made it possible to achieve their first pole position so far of Nova Bike. As you can see here, the popularity within the TU grew as well, and therefore the team was bigger than ever before. In the following year, a contract with the first professional rider was signed. His name is Ricardo van Dijn, and because of him it was possible to engineer the complete motorcycle around him. This made for an achievement which we can all be proud of, and which called for a celebration, as you could see. It was the first podium finish of the Nova Bike Racing Team Delft. In the year after, they decided to completely redesign and rebuild the chassis of new materials. Therefore, this was the lightest chassis so far, and in addition to that, they also improved the engine and maximized the power output, and therefore they had the maximum amount of horsepower so far. Because of the combination of these two features, it was possible to have the first podium finish within a European Championship. In the following year, an ambitious plan was set out to achieve a power-to-weight ratio of 1:1. To achieve this power-to-weight ratio, they decided to design a carbon fiber monocoque frame, which would support all the components and the rider in one piece. Unfortunately, soon they discovered that the safety of such a structure could not be guaranteed, and therefore they chose to improve the bike of the year before. So, after all these years, at the end of this year, after the complete racing season was fulfilled, it was time to hand over the team to a new group of students. As you might have noticed, racing is in our blood. And although we know a lot about it, some of you might not be familiar with the motorcycle racing world. Therefore, I would like to give you a small taste of this. Enjoy. As you can see, some amazing accomplishments had been made on the racing track in the past. After 6 years of developing motorcycles powered by bioethanol, we felt it was time to change. We believe that electric mobility holds the future. Not only this, fossil fuel reserves are running low, and the pollution that it creates has undeniable effects on our environment. Therefore, we think that electric mobility holds the future. Oh, I'm very sorry about this. As we can see nowadays, big automotive companies like Tesla are already making a change to the transition to renewable energy. We are happy that they are contributing to this transition, and they're doing a great job, but nothing in the motorcycle industry of this magnitude is happening yet. That is why we want to provide a good example for the rest of the motorcycle industry. So, to prove this, we decided to join the Moto E competition. We set out some goals for ourselves in the beginning of this year. Our goal is to educate students by designing and building a fully electric racing motorcycle that will compete in the Moto E competition 2016. As you can see, this goal is twofold. On one hand, we think it's very valuable for our team members to do practical experience within the team. On the second hand, of course, we want to prove that our electric motorcycle will be competitive with the rest of the current racing motorcycles out there. So, in this competition, several university teams and professional teams compete to be the best in what they do. And we want to show in this competition that our design is the best so far. To accomplish this goal, of course, there's one ingredient which is the most important. The people that put endless amounts of effort and hours into realizing this goal. And therefore, I would like to introduce you to our team. A team with people from different backgrounds, disciplines, and nationalities. To structure this team with so many different people, we decided to create 3 different departments. First is the Powertrain department. This department is responsible for transporting the energy from its source, which is the batteries in our case, to the asphalt. So in fact, they power our bike to go around the circuit. Secondly is the chassis department. They are responsible for the structure that keeps together all of the components and facilitates a place for the rider. So in fact, they keep the whole bike together. Then, last but not least, is the non-tech department. This department is responsible for running the team, which is actually comparable to running a small business. So, although we are with so many different peoples from different backgrounds, fulfilling different functions within the team, we share the same vision. And therefore it's possible to realize the ambitious goals that we set out for ourselves. Well, now I've talked about our goal and the team that will realize this. And of course, there's one more thing, where you all came for tonight. The unveiling of the Novabike 07, the first Dutch electric racing motorcycle. I want to inform you that after this unveiling, I would hand over the stage to my colleague Elizabeth Wolfgen, who would elaborate more about her design. So, for the big moment, I will now present you the unveiling. Enjoy!
I believe we can keep the promise of our founder The idea that if you're willing to work hard, it doesn't matter who you are, or where you come from, or what you look like, or where you love. It doesn't matter whether you're black or white, or Hispanic, or Asian, or Native American, or young, or old, or rich, or poor, able, disabled, gay, or straight. You can make it.
As you might have noticed, this was not the video of the Unveil. It was the video of how our team works together on a day-to-day basis. And as you can see, in the end, even during team building activity, difficulties appear along the road of such a challenge that we set for ourselves. But our team has proven so far that despite anything that comes onto our road, we will always find a solution to get around it. And that is the moment where you learn most. Well, you probably in the meantime are even more curious about what we have designed up until now this year. And therefore, I would like to present to you now the real Unveiling.
and gentlemen, you have just discovered the design of the amazing Nova Bike 07. My name is Elizabeth Vergen. I'm responsible for the technical department at Nova Electric Racing, and it gives me great pleasure to present you tonight some essential aspects of our motorcycle. I know my parents are somewhere in the audience. Mom, I know that you are not an engineer, but don't worry, I'm sure you will understand everything. And Dad, if you have some questions at the end of the presentation, our engineers will be very pleased to answer to all of them during the drink in the dream hall. I'm going to present you our design, but I don't want to present you every component one by one, because I don't want to bore you to death. So I'm going to explain you first the design challenge that we have, and from there, explain you our approach. So, for any racing motorcycle, with combustion engine, or in this case electric motorcycles, there are four main parameters that we have to consider. Because after all, what do we want? We want to win the race. And how do we win the race? Well, we have to be the fastest. And to be the fastest, well, there are these four parameters. The first one is the power. Of course, you want a powerful bike. The second one is the weight. You want your bike to be the lightest as possible, because every time you add some weight on your bicycle, bike, you need more power to get the same acceleration. So actually, it's a trade-off between power and weight, the power to weight ratio. You want the maximum power with a minimum weight. The third parameter is aerodynamics. You want to reduce the air resistance. So we come now to the fourth parameter, the handling. We want to have the maximum performance. We want to maximize the performance that the rider can get out of the bike. So, and the handling depends mainly on the structure, on the weight, and on the tires. So all these four parameters are true for any type of racing motorcycle. But in our case, with an electric racing motorcycle, there is one parameter I want to add. Does anyone know what I want to talk about? Batteries, yes. The batteries, there is a main difference with combustion engines, because it's the energy density. For a combustion engine, you have your tank. Well, after all, your tank is not so big, and it's not very heavy. But with batteries, they become very fast, very quickly, quite bulky and heavy. So, the design challenge here is to find the best balance between these five parameters. To explain you, I'm going to start with the heart of our motorcycle, the batteries. We need batteries that can provide us the right amount of power, actually maximum amount of power, but that are not too big and not too heavy. So what do we have? We have 65 kilograms of lithium polymer battery cells. Which are these type of cells? It's a kind of lithium cell that you all have in your mobile phones, but which can provide much more power. There is a downside to these batteries. They're quite dangerous. They can become a fire hazard if we don't keep them within the limits. In terms of temperature and in terms of voltage, it can go up to 700 volts. To remedy this problem, we have the battery management system. The battery management system is actually the safety guard of the batteries. It checks every cell and makes sure that they don't go beyond the limits. So, I told you that the energy comes from the batteries, then it goes through the BMS, battery management system, and then it goes to the motor control units. The motor control unit is the brain of the power source, the motor. Because the motor is very strong, but it's actually the same as Mr. Muscles. You need an extra brain. So this is the extra brain. It makes sure that the motor provides the right amount of power at the right time. And since it has to hold all this high voltage and all this power, it's quite heavy and quite big. Then we go to the motor. It is a very well engineered component. It is normally for aircraft, so it's very lightweight and very powerful. With this, we end up with a motor that is 50% lighter than all our competitors. I've talked about all these components, and I want to talk about the location. You can all see where they go, but I want to explain you why we decided to place them there. So, I told you that the batteries, the main problem is that they become bulky, so we need a lot of space in the main compartment to place them. So there are two solutions. The first one is with the motor controller. We just put it in the tail section, so we don't have to worry about it in the main section. Then the second solution is to take the motor as far back as possible and on the bottom. This way, we have enough space in the front for the batteries, but also on top of the motor, as you can see. Now that we have all these components, we need some kind of structure to hold them together. And this is mainly done by the frame. The frame is our own design to have it just as strong as it needs to be and as light as possible. As you can see, it's a tubular frame. This allows us to have easy access to all the components inside of the motorcycle. And the frame is then connected to the swing arm. I just want to add something. So the frame is our own design, we designed it, but Guido Veldkamp built it. He's an old member from Nova Bike, and he has now his own custom bike building company. So we have a little surprise at the Dream Hall, so don't hesitate to follow us after the presentation. So, the frame is then connected to the swing arm. The swing arm is another structural part, and it translates the movement from the rear wheel to the suspension. It was designed and built last year, but since it's a very well engineered part, and it's very light, it's 3 times lighter than all the swing arms that you can find on the market, well, we just decided to use it this year and to adapt it to our needs. So, the swing arm translates the movement from the rear wheel to the suspension. And what are the suspensions? The suspensions are the main reason for a good handling. And I told you, having a good handling is very, very important. In our case, we just kept the setup of last year's because it works very well, and we adapt them to the specifications of our bike. Since it's a bit heavier because of the batteries and everything else, we adapted them and they work very well. So now comes the seat, because we have to hold all the weight of the rider and in this case the weight of the motor controller in it. So it has to be very strong. And as you can see, it's made of one part from the front of the motorcycle to the back. This is a trademark from Nova Bike. We started to make this feature a few years back, and nowadays you can see more and more teams in the Super Mono Cup using this feature. Since it has to be very strong to hold the weight of the rider as well as of the motor control unit, we make it of carbon fiber. What is carbon fiber? It's a composite that is very lightweight, but very, very strong. So I told you that we optimized all the components to be as lightweight as possible. So, since the bike is lightweight and we have an aircraft engine, we were afraid that the motorcycle would take off. So we built our bodywork in order to have a downforce so that the motorcycle stays on the ground. But the main function of the bodywork is not this. It's to improve the aerodynamics. We want a smooth flow around the motorcycle. So we self-designed our fairings, our bodywork, and it's also made of carbon fiber to have them as light as possible. So all these design choices are made to have the best balance between the 5 parameters I talked about in the beginning, which were power, weight, aerodynamics, handling, and energy density. So now, I'm gonna give the word back to Nico, and I hope I all convinced you of the awesomeness of our bike.
So, as we just heard from my colleague, this motorcycle consists of a lot of different components, as is shown here as well. All of these components, of course, in the end have to be produced. And as much as we can, we will produce it in-house within the Dream Hall. This is the moment, the realization of the dream that we have built, that the little engineer in me, which was always tinkering on mopeds, comes back alive again. So, most of these components we can produce by ourselves with our own hands, which is a way of putting our engineering theory into practice as well. But of course, we are not able to produce the full motorcycle by ourselves, and we need a few partners to make our dream reality. Therefore, I would like to thank all the partners that help us to build what we have up until now. Aside of these partners, of course, I would like to thank one of our biggest sponsors on behalf of all of the team members, our parents. And before I go to the closure of this presentation, I want to share with you a small message from a good friend of ours who was unfortunately not able to be here tonight. Excuse me, because unfortunately for the English speakers in here, it's in Dutch. But enjoy.
Hallo, mijn naam is Rick Ritsma. Jullie zullen me kennen van het schaatsen, maar sinds 2008 ook actief als motorcoureur. Motorcoureur bij de Hollandse jongens. Mijn eigen raceteam, waar onder andere ook Rinselijn staat en Team Bouwmeester actief zijn. We zijn een team wat altijd bezig is met ontwikkeling om het zo goed mogelijk voor elkaar te hebben. Als we dan kijken naar de op brandstofmotoren gaat die ontwikkeling eigenlijk best goed. Als we vergelijken met auto's, dan is er heel lang innovatie geweest in brandstofmotoren, die is er natuurlijk nog steeds, maar ook elektrisch. En dat elektrische, ja, daar lopen we eigenlijk op de motorfiets daar nog steeds een beetje achter. Daarom sta ik ook achter dit project van de TU Delft, CQ Nova Racing. En hoop ik heel snel de eerste meters te kunnen maken op het circuit. En dan laat ik jullie weer weten wat ik ervan vond. Dank u wel.
So, after this, I would like to thank you all for your attention. I would like to invite you, as my colleague already did, to have a drink with us in the Dream Hall, so you can see what we have built up until now, and you can ask all the questions that you want to know. Then, for a final closure, I would like to invite the most essential part of this project onto the stage, under a random applause, our team. So, once again, thanks for your attention, and join us for some drinks and